Imagine a world without instant downloads, streaming, or even touchscreens. For anyone born after the year 2000, it might sound like science fiction, but for our parents and grandparents, it was simply everyday life. Streaming didn't mean watching movies online. It meant physically unwinding a cassette tape with a pencil. Finding directions meant wrestling with a giant paper map that never folded back the same way twice. This was the analog age, a time when every task had a physical, tangible process, and each moment required just a little more patience. Analog technology was the bridge between the purely mechanical world and the digital one we live in now. It wasn't sleek or instant, but it was built to last, and it had a charm that today's devices can't quite match. Today we go into open the old photo album of history and revisit 10 analog technologies that were once essential but are now completely foreign to the digital native generation. 1. Rotary dial phones. The spin before the ring, long before touchscreens and speed dial, making a phone call was a small event in itself. You'd lift the heavy receiver, hear that low, steady hum of the dial tone, and then slowly spin each number on the rotary wheel. Each click as it wound back felt like the heartbeat of the call you were about to make. There was no rushing a rotary phone. You had to commit to every digit, and if you got one wrong, back to the beginning you went. Families often kept the phone in a hallway or kitchen with a long spiral cord that tangled like spaghetti. You learned to memorize numbers because your contacts weren't stored anywhere except your own head. They began disappearing in the 1980s, replaced by push-button models and then cordless phones. But the tactile satisfaction of that spinning dial, that's something no smartphone can replicate. 2. Pagers and beepers. The buzz that called you back before texting. There were beeps. Pagers or beepers were tiny devices that fit in your pocket and did exactly one thing: let someone send you a number. If your pager buzzed, it meant someone needed you urgently. You'd look at the tiny screen, see the number, and then start hunting for the nearest payphone to call them back. Doctors, business people, and teenagers all used them, though for different reasons. They were incredibly limited, but in their time, they felt like a lifeline. By the late 1990s, cell phones pushed pagers into history, but for a brief shining moment. They were a symbol of being important enough that someone might need to reach you anywhere. 3. Answering machines. Messages on a loop, missed a call? No problem if you had an answering machine. These little boxes, often with a cassette tape inside, would record short messages from anyone who rang when you weren't home. There was a ritual to it. Pressing the play button, hearing the whir of the tape, and listening to messages in the order they arrived. Some people recorded funny or clever greetings, others kept it short and serious. The storage was tiny. You might have room for 10 messages at most, before you had to rewind and tape over the old ones. Voicemail made them obsolete, but answering machines gave phone calls a sense of presence. Like the person you missed was still leaving a little piece of themselves behind. 4. Paper maps and atlases. The fold-out adventure before GPS could tell you to turn left in 300 feet. You had to navigate the old-fashioned way. Paper maps were huge, detailed, and notoriously hard to refold. Families kept a worn road atlas in the glove compartment, pages dog-eared from road trips. Planning a route meant spreading the map across the hood of the car, tracing highways with your finger, and hoping you didn't miss a turn. If you got lost, you pulled over, rechecked the map, and sometimes asked a stranger for directions. Paper maps didn't recalculate when you went the wrong way. They made you figure it out yourself. Today's navigation apps are faster, but they can't compete with the sense of adventure a paper map carried. 5. Card catalogs. The library's treasure hunt in the days before search bars. Finding a book meant a trip to the card catalog. Rows of wooden drawers held thousands of index cards, each typed with a book's title, author, and location. You'd pull out the drawer, flick through the cards until you found your match, and then set off into the library aisles to track it down. It was slow, but there was something satisfying about the process. It felt like a treasure hunt. The quiet rustle of cards, the faint smell of paper, and the joy of finding exactly what you came for. It's an experience the internet can't replicate. Digital catalogs made it faster, but they took away the little moments of discovery along the way. 6. Typewriters. The clack of commitment. A typewriter didn't just record your words, it made you commit to them. Each letter was a physical stamp of ink onto paper, and mistakes were costly. Either lived with the error, covered it with whiteout, or started the page over. The keys had weight. You could feel the work of writing in your fingertips. Authors and journalists loved them because the rhythm of the clacking keys kept the mind focused. Offices once echoed with a chorus of typewriters, a mechanical music that's long gone. They began disappearing in the 1980s, replaced by computers. But they still carry a certain romance, a reminder that writing was once as much a physical craft as an intellectual one. 7. Cassette tapes and Walkmans. Music on the move before music fit inside a phone, fit inside your pocket in a cassette tape. The Walkman turned personal music into a revolution. You'd slide in a tape, press play, and the world was yours. Making a mixtape was an act of love, patience, and timing, waiting by the radio to record your favorite song, trying not to catch the DJ's voice at the start. Tapes had two sides, so halfway through an album you had to flip it over. And if the tape got tangled, you carefully wound it back into place with, a pencil. CDs and MP3 players eventually replaced them, but nothing quite matches the thrill of pressing play and hearing that first warm hiss. 8. VHS tapes and VCRS. Be kind, rewind. Movie night used to begin with a trip not to your couch, but to the video rental store. You'd walk the aisles, reading covers, choosing just the right VHS tape. Back home, you slid it into the VCR, pressed play, and maybe adjusted the tracking to fix those wavy lines. When the movie ended, you were expected to rewind at some stores, even charged a fee if you didn't. VHS tapes weren't perfect, but they were physical memories you could hold. Streaming is faster, but it doesn't have that Friday night excitement of carrying a plastic case home ready for popcorn and friends. 9. Film cameras and darkrooms. Capturing moments you couldn't see yet with film cameras. Every photo was a leap of faith. You had no instant preview, just the hope that you'd framed it right. Rolls of film were precious, so you thought twice before pressing the shutter. After shooting, you dropped the film at a drugstore or developed it in a dark room where images slowly emerged under red light like magic. There was anticipation, surprise, and sometimes disappointment, but always a story. Digital cameras made photos instant, but they also made them disposable. Film made each picture matter. 10. Mechanical alarm clocks. The tick-tock wake-up call before phones sang, you awake with custom tones. Mornings began with a sharp metallic ring. Mechanical alarm clocks were wound by hand, their steady tick-tock a nighttime companion. When the alarm went off, the twin bells could wake even the heaviest sleeper. There was no snooze button. You either got up or you listened to the racket until you did. They didn't need batteries, didn't lose time when the power went out, and they lasted for decades. They've been replaced by glowing digital numbers, but their simplicity and reliability still earns them a spot in memory. These technologies may be gone, but they shaped how people lived, worked, and connected. They demanded patience, attention, and care, qualities that feel rare in our instant world. So which of these do you remember? Which ones have you only heard about from parents or grandparents? Share your memories in the comments, and maybe ask someone older about the tools they grew up with. Because the more we remember where we've been, the more we understand where we are. Thanks for joining us on this journey back in time here on Gone in America.